Hello everyone, it's Matthew Stewart here, the CMO here at Untitled.
Hey, you know what time it is, my friends and family, and friends the family's friend? This is Will. How's it going? I assume it's good. Yeah.
Now today we're going to discuss how to make yourself most in demand within the tech industry.
Let's first look at what are some of the most in-demand technical jobs in 2020.
So what would some of the most in-demand technical jobs be in 2020?
Actually, a lot of the stuff that we got our hands into, like, data engineers, cloud architect, cloud engineers, blockchain engineers, full stack developer. Those are the most in-demand job skill set that most of the developers and tech professionals really need.
So how would someone decide which path is best to go down for them?
It really depends on their interest, right? So say if you have all the money in the world and you want to start a startup, what kind of industry or what's the idea that you really want to get yourself into? And then you look back on what's the best way to solve that problem. And if it really involves a technology stack you're learning, then that technical stack is usually a good choice to develop your skill set on.
You said someone should start with what they want to do and try and decide which technologies are the best solution for that.
Right.
How should somebody decide to do what they want to do versus what they already know is profitable?
So here's the thing, right? I myself have experienced this. If you're new to tech industry, the quickest way for you to grow is in 3 steps, in 3 tiers. The first step is you pick 2 of the 3 programming languages, and that's either Java, JavaScript, or Python. If you learn 2 of these 3 languages, you will be able to do things on a basic level for a lot of the different areas. And then the second step is you learn about one of the cloud platform, whether it's AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. All of these 3 cloud platforms are excellent, have a tremendous amount of traction in the market, and a lot of the recruiters or hiring managers are really looking for people with this type of skill sets. Once you are familiar with the services that are offered in one of these cloud platforms, you can really start to develop applications, you can really start to develop product, you can really start to develop even some of the cutting edge stuff like blockchain related or AI related models. You can play around with those things, right? And then you can start building what's called the POC, proof of concept. If you have an idea, you can really try to look to build a proof of concept. That is before you're skilled enough or you're attractive enough in the job market to be able to get a job. Once you have a portfolio, it's much easier for you to make a case for you to get a job, let's say at a company that's looking for a data scientist, etc.
So you recommend people learn Python, Java, JavaScript, at least 2 out of those 3?
Right.
What is the reasoning of choosing 2 out of those 3 languages? Why would someone want to do that?
Well, because these 3 languages have a lot of use cases and they all have sort of a lot of different ways to dive into other specs. For example, if you learn Python, you will be able to do a decent amount of back-end engineering. You will be able to do data engineering. You will be able to do a decent amount of data science. And you'll also be able to use the SDK to program some of the blockchain application logic. Let's say if you learn about Java, you will be exposed to an entire ecosystem of a mature framework that you're able to just leverage and start developing convoluted applications, enterprise applications. And let's say if you learn JavaScript, you will be really exposed to the front-end world. You'll be able to build some amazing, engaging front-end pages that allow you to present, because front-end stuff is really easy to present to other people, right? You don't have to be a very tech-savvy person to be able to understand something that's really visually appeasing, right? So you can build some really engaging front-end pages just with learning JavaScript, some of the JavaScript framework like React or Vue.js. And then you can also program backend stack with JavaScript using Node.js, right? So learning JavaScript is really about like full stack engineering, whereas Python, you can do full backend development, also data engineering, and Java is more like enterprise. So they each have their own unique use cases. And if you pick 2 of the 3, let's say if you pick JavaScript and Java, you can build some really nice enterprise level application, both on the front and back end. And that's a lot of the hiring managers are looking for. And also you can build like a data science application, not only be able to build like some heavy lifting, doing some heavy lifting with like with Java, but you can also have an API layer with Python. So now you have a data science product that allows you to do some pretty heavy lifting data advanced analytics, and at the same time allow you to expose that API in a timely manner. And a lot of the financial startups are really interested in that type of skill set.
You mentioned data a lot if you're working in data or on the AI side.
Right.
But what if somebody's more interested in working on the blockchain side? Is there a different skill set, or would it be the same?
Yeah, I mean, on the blockchain side, JavaScript has a lot of really awesome SDK. A lot of the newer blockchain projects, such as that is really popular, for instance, Cosmos or Polkadot, uses Golang or Rust, some of the what's considered as more infrastructure or lower level programming languages. But in most of the cases, when you're building a decentralized application, what's known as a DApp, JavaScript will just do fine. And plus, almost all of the DApp applications, decentralized applications, require a front end. So if you're into blockchain, I think JavaScript is a must-have. If you're working more towards like kind of the lower level programming languages, you may want to consider some of the other. If you're working with protocol, for instance, you may want to consider some of the other languages like C++ or Golang. If you're trying to build some application leveraging blockchain network, JavaScript is good enough. And plus, like if you're into consortium chain, like for instance Hyperledger Fabric, JavaScript is already pretty well supported.
You mentioned the second step is to learn about one of the cloud platforms like AWS or GCP. Why is it important to learn about one of the cloud platforms?
Because you can do a lot more. Like I think what cloud platform is really acting as is an amplifier. It amplifies what you are able to do with your technical skill sets. Like for instance, back in the days when you don't have some of the machine learning services, you'd have to really learn like a machine learning framework, right? But nowadays, let's say if you want to just build a proof of concept with machine learning, you can just leverage some of the existing framework. Like let's say a voice recognition app, right? If you don't have a cloud service and you have to learn some type of framework, or you have to have a tremendous amount of data to train the model, and that's going to take a very long time for research and development. But now that problem has already been solved, why reinventing the wheel, right? Why not just use the existing product that's out there and build a proof of concept and create a sound product in order to actually so that you can focus on the business aspect of it. And another example would be just the overall use of virtual machines, right? Like a lot of the time when you set up environments on your computer, it gives a lot of headache to yourself, and sometimes even with like containers, you sometimes forget to kill containers, and all of a sudden the code supposed to work doesn't work anymore, and you're trying to debug and this and that. If you're doing development and deploying and testing on a remote environment, you can just easily wipe out the entire thing and restart. The same thing cannot be said for your personal computer, right? So just something even as simple as that, right? And plus, there's a lot of cloud IDE that allows you to just do development remotely. Like I think DigitalOcean has and Cloud9, like those products are all out there that allows you to really accelerate the ability to test your code much quickly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it also helps to automate it and make the process easier when you're coding as well, correct?
Correct. And also, like in terms of delivery, you have all the CI/CD services like, AWS has code pipelines, Azure has their DevOps pipelines, and so does GCP. Just overall, it helps you, empowers you when you know one of the cloud platforms.
Now that people are familiar with which languages they should learn, and people are familiar with one of the cloud platforms,
right.
You also mentioned that step number 3 was to specialize in a specific area.
Right, yeah. So I think that really comes down to particular position that the job market really need. It's harder to navigate yourself as someone who knows about programming language and cloud. It's easier to make the pitch that you're a DevOps engineer, where you learn about the ins and outs of how to provision system, how to design infrastructure, and how to adopt the best practice when it comes to production support, as opposed to say, I'm really good at cloud and I know a few scripting languages, right? That's basically the gist.
But obviously when you're choosing a specialized area, that can also be a very personal decision depending on somebody's specialties, depending on what somebody's comfortable with and where they want to go.
Of course, yeah.
So I think it might be best to look at it from how does somebody go about finding something that aligns with their personal interest as well as with the job market.
Right. So if you're obviously some people are going to prefer one specialty than the other, but I think what doesn't hurt is to have a few language under your belt, and at the same time know one of the cloud platforms, and then just spend some time, investing some time on the areas that you're most interested in. And if you feel like it's not for you, you can still pivot, right? You still have the other skill sets which you developed over a course of time. But the fundamentals, I believe, are the programming languages and knowing the cloud platform.
So start with the fundamentals and then experiment from there. The more you play with, the more room you have to pivot.
Correct. And a lot of the areas really have a lot of synergies and really have a lot of just ease of transition. I'll give you an example, right? Let's say I'm a data scientist. I learn ins and outs of all kinds of framework at the Amazon machine learning, the Microsoft just machine learning development kit, and I learned about the Google TensorFlow. I know everything related to machine learning and advanced data science, predictive analytics. But I want to really build a product, or I want to transition myself so that I can actually do some data cleaning. I want to get an overview of the entire life cycle of the data, going from raw data to actual trained model. I need to actually understand what happens before I get the clean data that is utilized for me to create model. So then I need to understand the data engineering side of it, and it's easy to make that transition if you already have the fundamentals, right? You can just look into like some of the Hadoop open source framework to begin with, and then work with some of the cloud native services to experiment with data cleaning and how to process data in a distributive and cloud native fashion, right? And it's easy to kind of sell yourself as a data engineer and a data scientist.
So there you have it. Those are the key ways you can make yourself more marketable within the tech industry.